Hi and thank you for joining me today. Today's layout is for the Hey Little Magpie Chat and Inspiration group on Facebook. We're running a cyber crop today and this is the first challenge from Jackie, and Jackie's challenge is to create your own embellishment. So I've actually created a few on this layout. It's a picture of me and my daughter Amelia going to the cinema last Sunday to watch the new Elvis film. I managed to keep or salvage the tickets from the waste paper bin in the lounge, and I thought I'd use those as an embellishment on my page. And I've also got one rosette left from when I made them for a previous challenge last week, so I thought I would use that on there as well. And finally I'm going to make an embellishment cluster for the bottom right hand corner, so plenty of homemade embellishments on this page. So I'm just matting and layering my photo. I've put it on white, a scrap of white first of all, and then I'm using this wood grain because it's a nice neutral. I thought it went quite nicely with the colours. I do love this Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller range. The colours are absolutely beautiful. And you'll see here that I'm actually using my scissors to trim the photo mat when I don't need it to be too precise, and I know that I'm going to be roughing up the edges with my Tim Holtz edge distresser. I tend to just use my scissors now rather than faffing about with the trimmer. It's much quicker and easier. So here I am starting to work out exactly the position of everything, and now I'm going to come in and create this embellishment cluster in the bottom right hand corner. I remembered that I'd seen this sticker on the sticker sheet that I wanted to use because it says about taking a selfie, and that's what I'd said to Amelia when we were in the theatre. Come on, let's take a quick selfie. So the flower cluster is just one that I've hand cut from one of the 6x8 pieces of paper in the paper pad, and then the other bits are from the ephemera pack. The small red diamond is actually just an old piece of ephemera from Pink Fresh that I pulled out of my drawer just to add. That's the one thing, that there aren't loads of red embellishments in this Cocoa Vanilla Storyteller range, so because I've done so many red focused layouts with it, I'm struggling, so I'm just pulling a few bits in from my stash. So deciding that I definitely want it in the bottom right hand corner, so just trying it in the various different positions, but it does end up down there. And then messing about with a few extra bits to see if they work. Like that heart. Still not quite certain, but yeah. I like the lead from the top left hand corner to the bottom right. I do like these diagonal leads that I have on a lot of my pages. So decided to add one of the Storyteller Flair that we've designed for this collection, and taking some blue Gutermann thread, cotton thread, and layering that underneath the flare. I just think it adds a nice bit of interest. Just fiddling about, making sure that the thread shows well, and I'm happy with the positioning. And then I realised that I need to put some foam behind the photo so that it's all level, because that rosette really does lift everything up quite a bit in the corner, and it needs a couple of layers of foam. So just trim down this fun foam that I've got. Making a patchwork of the bits and pieces to lift it all up. I think perhaps with hindsight it could have done with 3 layers, but hindsight is a wonderful thing, and it was close enough. And now just sticking this cluster together so that I can move it and add some mixed media to my background, because the card's very white at the moment. So just making sure it's all stuck down. And then I realise I want to draw a pencil line so that I know where to put my mixed media. I have a habit of, if I don't mark, I go in with mixed media, and then when I put the photo and embellishments on top, it's all covered. So doing a pencil mark just underneath helps to focus the mind on where it's supposed to go. So once that's all marked out, I'm going to come in with a Vicky Boutin stencil. I just love this starburst, and I had some washi tape already to mark it off so that you didn't go over the other circles that were close by. And I'm using the Bundled Sage ink from Distress Oxides, the Tim Holtz ones. My favourite go-to mixed media at the moment. So just adding these around so that they nestle underneath the cluster of the photo. Taking this one off the page. They're really easy to clean up, they don't stain, so I'm not too worried about getting it on my desk. I'll just wipe it up after. And now I'm coming in to activate the oxides in the paint. They really bloom, and all the different colours of the paint come out if you put water on them, so just using a very small detail brush to do that. And then adding some splatters. It's a very tiny paintbrush, and it gives very tiny splatters, so you'll see later on I go in with a bigger brush. And normally I would splodge the ink onto some packaging, but I was feeling a bit lazy, so I'm just dipping in with my brush into the ink pad and then in for more water to be able to splatter. And just checking positioning of everything, checking that I'm happy, and working out what else I want to add, because I just feel that the page is still very stark white and there's not a lot of embellishments there at the moment. So I love this camera and I wanted to add that, and there was a title saying "Hello Beautiful." And then I decided that it's still all too white, so I'm going to add some oxide ink around the edge, watered down. So just spreading it around with my brush, not too delicately. And this just gives a bit of shading and shadow around the photo, and I'm much happier when I've done this. And here we go with the bigger splatters. Just have a bit more of an impact on it. Because those tiny ones, once they've dried, you could barely see them. So. And that's the thing to remember when doing splatters. They do dry much lighter, so don't be too concerned if they look really bold when you put them down. Especially if you're using a darker colour like the navy that I quite often use. So just adding some foam behind that camera to make it pop a little bit. And it makes it more sturdy on top of those tickets. So I've stuck most of the layout down, just sticking down the final bits here. Decided to do that off camera because I do tend to faff a lot, and I know it makes the videos quite long, so trying to cut out unnecessary bits. And then I wanted to add a bit more height on the left hand side there to get that diagonal line going from top left to bottom right. So I've added an offcut of one of the papers that I've used on a previous layout, and I found these two little bits that I'm adding. The navy tag that I'm going to put some cotton through is from the ephemera pack again, and the other chipboard piece again is from that Pink Fresh sheet, the chipboard sheet that I had just hanging about in my stash, and it goes quite nicely with the green and navy. So adding the date. And then layering those two. And I just love the look of those oxide inks. Can you see at the top above the photo where all the blues and yellows and greens have bloomed out of them because it was wet? They're absolutely magical. They're so easy to use and they really add such a great effect. Just checking that everything's straight with my T-ruler. Even though I haven't stamped the date very straight, I wanted to make sure that the tag was straight on there. And then coming in with some enamel dots again, just to add a little bit more interest. And some washi tape at the bottom. I neglect my stash of washi tape a lot of the time, so I'm trying to make a concerted effort to use it a bit more. I did pull out one with red stars on, but I wasn't happy with that when I tried it on the layout, so that didn't make it. Now adding this embellishment cluster and then just working out if I'm finished, but I'm not. Always want to add more. So when this is added down, I find this heart, so I add that some foam tape just again to give a bit more dimension. And I'm keeping in mind that underneath the photo I want to add a tiny bit of journaling just about what we went to see. Even though it says it on the tickets, because they're thermal printed, I'm not convinced that they're going to last for years and years. So as they fade, we might not be able to see the details quite so much. So I wanted to add some journaling just to say what it was we went to see and what we were doing. So adding that heart there to that cluster, I'm really happy with how that's ended up. And then another flare. And I want to add 3 because I've got that sticker with the camera on and the star flare, so I just wanted to find something else to add with it. I'll try a few things out, and then I think it's a little button that I settle on, a printed button. Again, trying this, but don't want that. And there's the button, and that's just perfect. Just making sure that the star still shows and I'm happy with the positioning, and then the button goes in. So now it's time for the journaling. So my usual, just adding some faint pencil lines. As I've mentioned before, I'm left-handed. You'll see that my writing goes very uphill if I don't do myself lines. I've tried and practiced, but I just can't get straight, so lines are the answer. You can rub them out afterwards, but it doesn't bother me seeing the lines on the layout. So as I say, just journaling about where we went. We're so lucky in Warrington, and where we live it's just a 10-minute stroll up to the local Cineworld, so it's very easy. If we decide to go up there, we can just walk up without worrying about parking and things. As usual, not quite enough lines, so just adding one more. And it's at this point I take a step back and decide that I want to do some stitching. I do love adding stitching to my layouts. So underneath, you can't see, but I've just added a piece of foam so that I can use my needle as a piercing tool to put where I want the stitching lines to go, and then it's just a case of using those holes as your guide to go through, you'll see. And I'm just stitching lines in between the starbursts on this one, so just sticking the thread down on the back with some washi. And then stitching it up. So I'll do this first one with you on camera, but the others I won't make you sit through. Again, I choose 3 in a triangle to stitch through, just to add the interest there. And it draws the eye around the page nicely if you choose a triangle of 3. And again, just using a piece of washi to secure the thread on the back. That's the first one done, and then I'll go to the one at the top. Threading my needle and doing the same thing, piercing the holes and then stitching through. Starting in the middle, and I vary the length of the stitches around. So I won't bore you with all this. I choose is that one just above the rosette. So once they're done, I still want to add a bit more black. There's quite a lot of black in the camera lens and in the actual photo. So I go in with some black soot distress oxide, and I'm using a cocktail stick as a drawing tool. And I start by just drawing as if I was stitching around this one. And then I start shadowing the edges of all the others. I think this is a really effective way of doing it if you don't want to use a stark black pen. Black soot is a dark grey, and you can vary the depth of colour by how much you've got on your cocktail stick and how watered down it is. And it doesn't add a lot, but it just adds that other little detail, just takes it to the next level really. So making sure I do all of them. Even this one that I've stitched, I thought I want to add a bit more definition to it. And then I start doodling. So I do love these plus signs. I've got an LE Studio stamp called Thankful, which has got a small cluster which I used on a layout yesterday, a process video that's up on my channel. So that gave me the idea to keep doing that here. So I start off with adding some pluses, and then I want to add some little starbursts. Just doodling, just adding interest around the page. And that's it. So thank you very much for joining me and watching. I hope you've enjoyed and you've got some tips and tricks from me. I'll leave you with some close-ups, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.